Hi, this is Grace Power, and I was just getting ready to do sugaring on my legs. So I wanted to go through some of the preparation that you would do for yourself if you were going to be doing this. First off, you want to warm your sugar, and when doing legs you can actually warm it up a little bit more than you would like if you were to do your bikini line or underarms or the hotter spots of the body, just so it goes on a little bit smoother. And I'm actually using the Firm today, but I've had this one for gosh, it's been like a month and a half. I think I've had this jar, and in Florida it's very humid here, so I could tell, I was just using this on my brows and I could tell that it was already getting kind of soft. So we'll see how it does. Sometimes the humidity, well, actually definitely the humidity changes the consistency of the sugar, and so that's always something to keep in mind if you live in like a humid environment, like closer to Florida area or Texas. I also lived in Texas for a while, and I noticed the humidity there does affect the sugar. So and then also just the warmth in general will affect the sugar. So anyways, I only put it in the microwave for 20 seconds, so I'm going to see how that does. But usually for legs I would probably do like 40 seconds if the jar was full. As your jar gets lower in, lower amount of sugar, you won't need to heat it as hot, so keep that in mind too while you're adjusting your temperatures. It doesn't take very much. You still want it to be kind of like warm, room temperature-ish, like a little above room temperature, body temperature, I guess, just so that it does smooth on nicely, but it's not going to like be scalding or burn you. I mean, usually you're using your hands to put it on, and you definitely don't want to burn your hands, you don't want to burn the body that you're working on, etc., etc. So another thing that you could use that most people have at home is just some cornstarch. It's good to have a little bit of powder. Legs don't generally need very much powder because it's not like they're sweaty, and it just doesn't take much powder. But if you had like lotion on your legs or anything like that, you definitely want to wash your legs really good. I would say even just jump in the shower. If you've put lotion on your legs during the day, you want to make sure all of that lotion is rubbed off, because that will interfere with the sugar being able to grab the hairs. It could even interfere with the sugar going on the skin, like it won't stick to the skin, so it definitely makes it more challenging. So make sure that the legs are clean. And then I also have these exfoliation gloves, and usually I would use these in the shower, but for demonstration purposes I wanted to kind of show you can use them almost like a dry brush. You don't need to use them in the shower. And so I'm just gonna hold up my legs. So like to prepare my legs for sugaring, just kind of go up and down, do some circles, and that's gonna help get off some of the dead skin. And why that's important is that the sugar will be able to stick to the skin better, so that it pulls the hairs out better. But also it'll help your sugar last longer, because the sugar is gonna pick up all the dead skin. It's like an exfoliation treatment itself. So as the sugar is picking up all that dead skin, it starts to turn white, and it just stops to lose its stickiness. So you end up going through more sugar. So this is just one way to make your sugar last a little longer. And when you first use these gloves, at least these, all exfoliation gloves aren't made the same, but these specific ones, we actually sell these on our store now because we've had people asking about them, and I've been using them for years. I love them. But anyway, so when you first start using them, they're very scratchy. And so it took me a while to get used to that scratchy feeling. At first it was like, oh my gosh, this is like it really kind of hurts. And so I was like very dainty, light pressure, like kind of doing like very light, because I was just getting used to that sensation. And now I just love the feeling of like scrubbing the skin really, really good, and my body's used to that like scrubbing feeling, and it just feels really good, like a really good back scratch. It's amazing. So while I've been talking, I pretty much got all my legs good and scrubbed up. And so that's what's great about these. You just put them on, scrub. You don't need any products or anything. So, and then the other thing, I like to wear gloves when I'm working with the sugar, but when you're working on yourselves, you don't necessarily need to wear 2 gloves. Just wear the glove on the hand that you're actually going to be sugaring with. So here is the jar. I just want to show kind of how much I would grab for the legs, because I usually grab a pretty good amount. I'm actually going to start with this, and I may end up having to come back and get a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to push the camera down so you can see my legs. So as I'm putting it on, I'm keeping my hands perpendicular to the body. You don't want to be putting it on like this. It's just going to be more messy that way. Okay, so I'm going to add a little more sugar. So since this is my personal jar of sugar, I can actually double dip, but if this was in a salon, what you could do to get a little more sugar out without contaminating it is just use a stick, like a popsicle stick or a craft stick, and then you would pull that out, swipe it onto the skin, from the stick onto the skin, and then you could use your hand to smear it. And that's just one way to keep your jar not contaminated. So I probably could have heated my sugar up a little more, I think. I'll have to see, but I can just tell, like, from putting it on, especially since this is the firm, I think I could have went just a little bit softer. But one thing with sugaring is that as you work with it, it always turns into like the perfect consistency. So you don't have to really worry about underheating it. You really have to be more concerned about overheating it. So now I'm ready to flick. When I'm ready to flick, I always come a little past where I had laid the sugar before. I'm just going to demonstrate what not to do. You wouldn't want to come like right here and then try to flick this off, or even like right here and try to flick it off. You always want to come up past where you've sugared, stop your gliding, and then just drop your hand down, put a little bit of pressure down, and then flick. And you don't want to flick up. You don't want to flick up away from the body. You want to flick kind of like down towards the sugar, the area that you're taking off the sugar. So with sugaring on the legs, I've always found that when you take the time to mold over the area, like at least 3 times, you're just going to grab so much more hair. It's going to save you from having to go back over the area. So what I'm talking about molding is just going, over the sugar. I think it just gives it time to like grab onto the sugar and kind of melt into the follicles a little bit. Also, as I'm kind of molding over, I'm smearing it in and wrapping it around those hairs a little bit more. So before I flick off the sugar, you want to hold the skin tight. So I'm like kind of holding and pulling up the skin. Then stop, drop, put some pressure, and flick. Okay, and if it flips over on your hands a little bit, don't worry. That does happen sometimes. And you can always wipe it off onto the skin. So always remember to keep your fingers at least perpendicular to the body. You don't want to, I don't even want to do it, but you don't want to lay your hand like flat. It'll start getting all up in your palm and make a mess. So just do your best to keep your fingers perpendicular. You could even, like what I'm doing here is I'm actually curling my fingers, so you could even curl your fingers a little bit, and that seems to really like grab up those hairs even better. It also puts the sugar on a little bit thinner when you curl your fingers like that. And one tip that I had learned from an instructor one time was that if well, she said that the thinner the sugar goes on, the more hair you're gonna grab. So keep that in mind, and that curling the fingers just kind of helps put it on a little bit thinner. Okay, so I'm just gonna do one more mold because I kind of like molded that like all randomly. So I'll do one more mold all the way up. Okay, then you get to the top, stop, drop, put some pressure, and flick. And then on these ones, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just kind of remolding a little bit, stop, drop, put some pressure. Remold a little bit, stop, drop, put pressure, and flick. Okay, so now inside of the leg. So I was worried about the sugar like not working well because of the humidity, but it actually seems to be working fine. So I mean, I think that is contributed to the fact that it is the firm. So it's definitely staying firm. In fact, on legs I generally like a little bit softer sugar, but I just had this one and thought it might be a little bit softer. So I just noticed a few hairs down here, so I'm just gonna kind of add this to my little thing of sugar. If you've ordered the sugar from us before, one thing we've been starting to do is include a little sample of gloves, of they're black nitrile gloves, and you've seen them, you may have seen them in like some other videos I've done. They're the best gloves for doing sugaring that I've come across, and one of the reasons is because they're really tight fitting, and so these gloves are just ones that I picked up at Walgreens, kind of in a last minute sort of hurry, because the black gloves I have to order, and I was in a situation where I just needed the gloves like that day. I didn't have time to wait to order them. So I still have these gloves, these Walgreens gloves, and I've been using them up when I've just been sugaring myself. But you can see the fingers are like getting pulled off the tips a little bit, and that's just because it's not as tight of a glove as what you would really want. So when that happens, you do tend to lose a little bit of control over your sugaring. I'm just kind of looking at what direction the hairs are growing back here, but I think these ones are still growing mostly down towards my feet. I have some hair on the back of my legs that grows sideways, so once I get to those, I'll kind of start doing more of a sideways thing. I wonder if I can turn my leg a little more so you guys can see what I'm doing. so now that I'm ready to pull this, I am pulling the skin tight right in here. Come back or come up where there's no sugar, stop, drop, put some pressure and flick, then kind of remold, stop, drop, but pressure and flick. Okay, so now I'm going to go sideways. Let's see, move my chair. Let's see, guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. When you're doing yourself, the back of the legs is always the most challenging spot to get because you can't really see everything that you're doing, and it's just usually they're just a little bit harder angles. So that is one benefit of having this done by someone else. And a lot of times I do like to have it done, but usually for me, the main times I have it done is when I'm in a class and we're low on models. And so even with my experience getting sugaring done, it hasn't really always been like a professional environment and, you know, the most skilled technician. A lot of times it's just students working on me. So so every once in a while I do treat myself to a full leg treatment, but it actually, I have to say, it's hard to find places that do sugaring. So like the last professional hair removal leg treatment I did was when I was on Block Island in the summertime, and I just went to their spa there, and of course they didn't have sugaring, so they used the wax on my legs. It was supposed to be an organic wax, so I don't know if that made any difference, but it was still wax, still a little more painful than the sugaring, but it was nice to just lay there and have it done instead of doing it myself. Okay, so there's a little tiny little spot here that I missed. Go ahead and mold 3 times. Usually that just gives you the best result. Okay. So legs are looking really good. Little spot back here. Let's see what I'm doing. I just had an idea for my next leg. I think I might try to set the camera up so you really kind of see more of my point of view. I don't think I've ever done that before. Okay, nice. So this ball of sugar is still actually working okay. So I'm just gonna head up to my upper leg here. Now if I hadn't exfoliated my legs before, I probably would need a new ball of sugar by now, just because of the dead skin, so that really did make a difference. You can still see my gloves getting way stretched out. It's like the more I work with these gloves, the more they stretch out. That's not my finger like bending in half, that's just the glove. So one thing with sugaring is it is definitely more of a slow pace than like with waxing. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's slower as far as, you know, start to finish time, but just when you're putting it on, it definitely is like a slower process. But you do make up time by not having to keep going back to your wax pot and grab more wax and more wax and more wax. It's surprising how much time that adds up. So this, by just having your ball of sugar right in your hand and just able to go from one section to the next without having to go to your station, to your workstation, or, you know, grab more product, it really does save time. It's surprising how much time that adds up. So now I'm just kind of using my thumb to push the sugar that's been kind of going down my hand a little bit further into the top, so I can use that. The sugar is still working, it's still picking up hair, but the gloves are what's making me want to change my ball, just because those fingers are so wrapped up in that sugar. So I'm going to do my knee. So knees, the hair kind of can sometimes grow like all sorts of different ways, sideways and up and down. And so I always just start with this way, like coming up and flicking down, and then checking to see if there's any missed hairs. And then a lot of times I'll kind of do a sideways. Actually didn't see any missed hairs, but I figured there probably is one or two. So just kind of going sideways on the knee. Okay. So stop, drop, put some pressure, flick. Okay. So that didn't come off because I wasn't holding the skin tight enough, so I'm just going to re-grab and pull the skin tight. Alright, I'm actually going to put the music back on. It's just kind of nice to have a little bit of background music. It's not quite so quiet. Alright, so back in here I have some really long hairs. Down here these hairs kind of grow down, so I'm going to get this area first. And then these ones are kind of growing more sideways, so go a little bit different direction on those ones. Okay, stop, drop, put some pressure, and flick. Same thing here, just roll it off. Alright. I'm just amazed that this piece of sugar is still like, it's not white, and usually when it's white, that's when I'll know to change it. Now, I had showed you guys the powder, but I actually didn't use any powder. And I don't think I will. It's just, it seems to be working really well without the powder. Sometimes I'll reapply powder if I have to go over an area and it just looks like it's kind of sensitive. I'll put some powder on to just protect the skin a little bit, because after I've already gone over it one time, a lot of that dead skin is already lifted, and so it's just more sensitive. So I'll just kind of pay attention. My legs like don't look red at all. They're just, I mean, it's great. That's one great thing about sugar, partly because it doesn't have any heat. There won't be as much redness on the skin, but also just the product itself, it just does not stick to the skin like a waxing would, and it leaves the skin so much less irritated. So on the inner thighs, I think I'm like a lot of people. The skin just, you know, is a little more flabby in that area, so it's just important to make sure you're pulling the skin really tight. It's not only going to help you get more hair out and get the sugar off, but it also makes it feel less painful just by pulling the skin tight. So I'm going to re-pull it tight here, then re-pull it tight again. So that's like, you don't want to just keep holding up here, but just keep moving your hand to hold the skin tight as you remove that piece of sugar. So I have like, I don't know if you guys can really see it too closely, but I have a little mole right here. And I had it removed, so it's actually not a raised mole anymore. It used to be like a raised mole. It's just kind of a flat one now. But I always, you know, a lot of people ask, you know, can you sugar over moles? And I really just leave that at your own discretion. Some people don't want to pull the hair out of a mole because they've heard that that can cause problems. I personally don't believe that, but that's just my personal bias. So for my body, I always just go over the moles. If there's hair coming out, I'll just pull it out with the sugar, and it won't like pull off a mole or anything like that, because it's just not sticky enough to really pull off the skin. But if you are concerned about that, you can always just go around the mole. And what I would do in this case would just be like kind of come up around this way first, and then maybe do another piece like around this way. So that way you can still get all the hair around it, but you don't have to go actually over it. Yeah. So down here, I can't even really tell which way the hairs are growing, because the hair is so long and it kind of is starting to curl. So there's just hair like growing every which way. It looks like. So I'm just gonna go this way. And I'll go ahead and mold one more time. Sometimes I get in a hurry and I just mold twice. And then I usually have to go over a couple little hairs because it doesn't pick them all up. So 3 times is really the trick. And again, just keep re-holding that skin. Okay. I think right behind the knee can sometimes be like a tender spot, so just keep that in mind. If it hurts a little more there, that's normal. It does really help to hold the skin tight. You could also do a little bit smaller sections if if you're extra sensitive there. And just remember to re-hold the skin tight. That'll help. Okay, hold the skin tight, stop, drop, flick. Okay, so back in this section, I actually can't even see what I'm doing, but I'm just gonna put it on and trust it. And I can't really see this part of me, so I can't, like when I feel it, I don't feel any hairs, but just to be on the safe side, I just want to like kind of go over it a little bit, just kind of as a touch-up. Okay, and then to get the very back, just I'm holding out my leg and I'm holding on to my toes, which you can't see, but I'm just like holding out my leg and holding onto my toes for support. I just like to straighten out the back of my leg. This is, I just remember when I used to shave, and this, like a lot of times I would cut myself on this tendon. And with sugaring, obviously you don't have to worry about that, but you do like to, I mean, I do like to stretch the skin tight, so that's an important part. So now pull it off. Okay. I can feel like some sugar back here. Alright, so one leg down. One more to go. So on the other leg I'm going to do a different angle of the camera, and so that way you just get a just different point of view. So this is going to be a little bit different view here. I'm going to grab some sugar out. And just remember to get a big piece when you're doing the legs. Okay. So, I want to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and start like this. So what I wanted to try to do here was set up the camera so you can kind of see more of what I see when I'm sugaring myself. So I have the camera kind of at my shoulder here. Alright, and I actually do want more sugar because I want to be able to cover all the way up my entire leg here. So getting more out, grab another big old piece. Alright, so I was just thinking that the sugar, if I would have been thinking about it, I would have warmed it up just a little bit more, just to make it go on a little bit softer, but it's definitely workable. It's going on okay, but it is still pretty firm. Okay. So one spot that's easily missed is kind of around the ankle, so make sure you do cover that ankle part. And sometimes the ankle is actually a very sensitive spot. So just to let you know that, like, if it really hurts, it's not really anything that you did wrong. That's just a spot that hurts. A lot of times it's just a little more sensitive. Okay, so you get to the top, stop, drop, put some pressure, and flick. Stop, drop, put pressure, and flick. And you can see how I'm like re-holding the skin tight with this other hand. Alright. For you guys to still see that. Okay, there we go. So this is just like the inside of the legs. And the, well, it's actually like but more the back of the legs, really. But this hair on the back of my calf, it grows sideways, so that's why I am going sideways on this spot. So a lot of times to hold the skin tight, I actually hold up here. Oh, you can't see that. Man. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna do one more mold. Okay, so I'm actually holding the skin. If you can see my hand over here, I'm holding the skin tight from the upward part. And then get to the back, stop, drop, flick, stop, drop, flick, stop, drop, flick. Okay. Okay, and oftentimes, like, the more you mold over the skin, especially on legs, the better results you're going to have. On other areas of the body, if it's a hot spot of the body, sometimes over molding can just create it to be, the sugar will get too melted and sticky and all of that. So that is, that's not like the same on other areas of the body, but on legs and sometimes on arms, the more that you mold over the sugar, I'm gonna do one more time since we're talking about it, you know, the better results you're gonna have, the more hair you're gonna pick up on that first swipe. I mean, I picked up all the hair right there. There's not one missed hair. So that's just something to keep in mind. Sometimes it's easy to like get in a rush, and I know I do it sometimes too, where it's like, oh, I'll just mold twice, or even just one time, and then it's easy to like miss hair. Okay. I'm trying to see what angle I can do here. See. I usually always have the camera facing towards me, so this is just a little bit different, and I thought it would be kind of a cool perspective, because especially if you're getting the sugar to use on yourself, just kind of give you an idea of what it might look like. But it is hard to get the camera sometimes in the right position. So if the sugar is like all over your hand like that, you don't have to worry too much, but if you did kind of want to get it off, which I kind of do right now, I'm actually going to scrape it off like onto my skin where there's no sugar. And even on my, I'm just even going to get much off, like a little bit off my thumb here, just for the fun of it. And here, I'll even put some up here. It really doesn't matter where you put it, just to get it off your hands if you're trying to just get it more into a ball. All right, so now just do a long mold. If it's your first time sugaring your legs, you probably don't want to do as big of sections as I'm doing. I really just wanted to show bigger sections on this video because it is a little bit faster way to go about doing it. And a lot of times I think I've done like smaller sections on the legs, or like a half a leg, you know, half a leg or something, or half of a leg. Okay. So then to keep the sugar, like, you could like try to get it back in your hand and stuff, but sometimes it's just easier to just get it back on the body and then start molding it onto the skin rather than playing around with it in your hands. Sometimes if you just mess around with it in your hands, it starts to like goop even worse than it could already be gooping. And once the sugar starts to get into the palm of the hand, it can start to just get way too warm. So just to kind of keep that in mind, the better you can keep it on your fingertips, the more control you'll have. And that's actually one of the reasons where I really try to emphasize like not to put it on like this. I'm just going to do it right here just to get it off my hand. And if you're trying to just get it off your hand, that's one thing. But like I wouldn't want to like keep remolding like that, because now then it's just going to keep getting more and more of my glove. So now that it's off of my glove, now I can turn my hand up and keep it on my fingertips. Okay, I'm going to do one more mold, one long mold all the way up. Alright, so then get to the top, stop, drop, put some pressure, flick, and then just the same thing all the way down. And remember to hold that skin tight as you're going along. It actually feels kind of nice when you're putting the sugar on. Like a big, thick cream or something that's going onto the skin. Like a body mask. It feels pretty nice, actually. The one thing, though, I will point out that if your hair is long, sometimes when you're putting it on, you might feel it pulling some of these other hairs, like the longer hairs. Sometimes they'll feel like they're getting pulled. So if that is what you're feeling, just go a little bit slower, slow down your application, and that just gives time for the sugar to sort of melt a little more so it's not pulling on those hairs. And the knee can have hairs growing all over, so just kind of go sideways on the hair, go up and down, like just every which way. And that's one great thing about sugar, is that you can go over the skin more than once, so you don't have to worry about missing any hairs on the knees. Okay, so now I'm going to go up a little bit. want to make sure to hold the skin tight there. I guess one of the challenges I'm having with doing the video is that I want you to have like a 3D experience, but unfortunately it's just a 2D. So I think that's one of the things, is like it's still not going to be the same as like seeing a live demonstration. So to see this part, I had to turn the camera around totally the opposite way. So now it's like looking, this is my inner thigh. I was just looking straight at it instead of like trying to do it over my shoulder. I just couldn't get the right angle. So okay, stop, drop, put some pressure, and hold the skin tight. I'm actually like holding my skin like this over here, like pinching it. Oh, I wasn't holding it tight enough. Okay, re-hold. Alright, so actually I'm going to try to show what I'm doing. So, alright, so I was just getting a little stuck, like it wasn't pulling off, just because I wasn't able to hold the skin tight in the right spot there. So I had to like reposition my hold to be able to hold a little tighter. Okay, I'm ready to pull, stop, drop, put some pressure, and flick, re-hold. Alright. I'm molding 3 times again. I'm actually going to do four times here, just felt like it needed one more mold. Okay, so once you get to the end of your sugar, stop, drop, put some pressure, flick. And I keep saying that just because when you're first learning, it really helps to make sure to get your flick, because it's easy to forget how to flick it off and be trying different things and it's just not flicking. Look at that, the glove with that finger. That is not my finger, that's just the glove. Like, it has pulled off so much. Okay, so to get right behind the knee, go ahead and stretch your leg out straight. And you could even like flex your foot back just so that you're getting the skin as tight as possible. Okay. I think there's still some hair behind my knee. Let's see where you can. Okay. I just felt like a little bit of hair here. I don't know why. Okay. Everything looks pretty good. So, well, actually, maybe I didn't do this part of my leg. I can actually feel a little bit up here too. And actually this is good that I'm almost done because the sugar, I just noticed how it's starting to look kind of a white color. And so that's usually when it stops working quite as well. But I'm actually really impressed because if I hadn't exfoliated first with those gloves, usually I have to go through 2 balls for the whole entire leg, typically. Just because, you know, just doing like half of a leg, it'll start to pick up so much dead skin that I'll have to get a fresh ball. So this is really impressive that just using those gloves, the exfoliation gloves beforehand, really made an impact. And that's really the, you know, one of the biggest reasons is just to help your sugar last longer when you're doing your legs. And really any area of the body, if you exfoliate first, your sugar's you're gonna last longer. All right, so that looks good. My sugar is definitely like ready to go. And I think that's all for now.